Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and it is the first day of the season, and I just killed Uber Lilith here. And this build is a little bit different version of the Quill Volley build that's being pretty popular right now. So I kind of just want to highlight and show what's going on, because I do think that this build is probably one of the stronger variants, especially because I'm missing an entire Paragon board. Most of my glyphs aren't really leveled up all that much. Pretty much most of my gear is pretty bad at this point, and there's just a lot of room to go. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this particular variant could go over pit level 100, and it is pretty darn safe. It does a lot of damage, and it just is a lot of fun as well. So let's just showcase kind of what's going on with this. So the very first thing that you might notice right away, there are a lot of orange damage numbers popping out as we go through this fight. And the damage here is going to scale up pretty quickly. I don't know exactly why on this particular pool I didn't do a ton of damage right away. But that's kind of more what the damage looks like on the build normally. And yes, you can dodge Uber Lilith's little jump down at you by jumping up in the air with Soar. Nice little mechanic there. But what this build is doing is we're taking advantage of how overpowered Overpower is in the expansion by using the Banished Lord's Talisman along with the Rod of Kepeleke. Now, if you're not familiar with Quill Volley, it is one of the core skills for the Spiritborn. It's the thing shooting out all the feathers. And the Rod of Kepeleke makes it so that core skills also count as basic skills, have no cost. However, when you cast it at full resources, it consumes all of it, gives you up to 3% multiplicative damage per resource consumed, and it on this particular skill, it adds a few more projectiles. And so that is relatively strong. Now, what we do is we combine it with Banished Lord's Talisman, where every time we spend 275 resource, we get a guaranteed overpower on the next hit, and then things that crit and overpower, do more damage. Oh yeah, and by the way, Kepeleke also makes it guaranteed crit. So we get guaranteed crit, guaranteed overpower, and it's just a lot of damage combined. Now I said overpowered is a little bit overpowered, and the reason for that is because of the stat squish. So previously and now, the way that overpowered damage is calculated is you get a multiplier based on what your base health was and how much additive health you get. And so previously we'd have additive health that was not as big comparative to how the size of our total health, or to the, and so we wouldn't add as much health basically, but now we're adding quite a bit. And so, yeah, the overpower damage is kind of through the roof right now. And we're using things that are giving us even more health. So, for example, here for this rune, we're use a skill with cooldown, get 20% more maximum life. And then we are going to also be getting another 15% more maximum life here from Gorilla. And so we can go from 3,800 HP to a staggering 5,300. Which is pretty nice. And this build is really, really fun because it has a lot of utility, a lot of damage, and a lot of safety. So I'm not necessarily going to go through the entire builder and what's going on with it. I'll put a link to this down in the description below, especially because I'm going to be probably updating some things as we go. But one of the big things that's kind of a quality of life for me is intricacy. And what this does is it makes it so that any of your potency, defensive, or focus skills that you cast prior to your ultimate is reset, and you can cast it additional times for the next few seconds. So that means things like if you soar and then cast your ultimate, you can soar again a few times, which gives you quite a bit of maneuverability. You can also do things like cast counterattack, which gives you 3 seconds of dodging all attacks, up to 6 seconds, and you can just keep this up against a single target or against anything really, just walking through a pit. You can keep this up permanently the entire time, and it's just very, very powerful. Then we use things like Armored Hide here to give us additional resolve just kind of bring it back. This is kind of an ablative damage reduction thing, but we also do have a glyph that gives us damage reduction. Now, to go over the gear super duper fast, we're using Harmony of Ebawaka. This makes it so that all of our skills have basically 3 spirit types if we're splitting stuff up. And we're using right now Gorilla and Jaguar, which makes our Quill Volley a Eagle, Jaguar, Gorilla skill, all of them 3. And so it does almost 90% more damage with that. We have a little bit of DR on there as well. Our chest armor should be Tyrael's Might. Haven't found it yet. Let me know if you find it for me. And instead we're putting like Disobedience here, armor, a little bit of resistance and stuff. Our gloves, we have Unyielding. So Unyielding is an aspect that gives us a ton of damage by turning our armor into flat weapon damage. And you can stack up to 5,000 armor here to get a maximum of 1,500 weapon damage, assuming you have this aspect on a glove or something. If you have it on a two-hander, you need less armor, of course. Might here is giving us a little bit more DR. Duelist gives us more ferocity, which is more damage and more attack speed. Rada Kapaleke is kind of the big money maker here. The Banished Lord Talisman is the thing that kind of allows us to overpower. And then Midnight Sun allows us to recoup some of the resources that we've spent recently. We get them back on our first crit. So this is the thing that pretty much allows us to continuously fill up our resources. I'm going to mute the game here real quick, but you can see if I hover over the button, over the bar here, as long as I'm like hitting this correctly, this pretty much is refilling 100%, just flapping between 0 and full over and over and over again. And we can see that my, I need to have Ravager up, sorry. We can see that the damage numbers are orange a lot of the time. And this is just the base damage numbers. Now, when we spam out our ultimate, we get additional damage here. So another 30% damage against single target bosses. And then we get up to another 30% damage from Supremacy, assuming we're killing stuff or we're spamming our ultimate, which we're doing, which is pretty powerful. It all kind of comes together with Prodigy's Tempo, which makes it so that our basic skills give us skill ranks, and then our core skills or potency skills reduce the active cooldown of all skills significantly. And because of Rada Kapaleke, Quill Volley is both a core and a basic skill together, and so it just resets everything. And so we're still kind of like a work in process here. Our gear's not super great. Our glyphs here are still relatively low level. I have a few legendary ones, a level 15 one here. So we have Spirit. We're going up here to Convergence right now with Talon. I don't really have very much of this filled in. And then we're going over here to Sapping. We're putting Revenge Glyph in here, which doesn't really look like it's all that appealing to us. However, that bonus to rare nodes is hitting a maximum resource node, which is really good for Kapaleke. We get more resource stuff over here. This is more damage, a little bit more resource gen, especially early on. This does help quite a bit. Viscous Shield, we're getting damage here because we are popping the Druid barrier from basically just burning up our resources. So the barrier is up practically all of the time here. You can kind of see it here just constantly reforming on us. So this provides us with quite a bit of damage reduction. And yeah, it's just relatively strong. And then finally, I don't really know exactly which board we're going to do yet. I think Spiny Skin could be an option here for the Thorns. This also has a lot of cooldown, a lot of resistance, a lot of armor, a lot of life. All of that stuff is kind of damage for us. And it will also let us to kind of change up our tree a little bit, but we'll have to figure out exactly what's going on. And that's kind of just wanted to show this off and see kind of what your guys' ideas and thoughts on this are. I think this is going to be very, very powerful. Oh yeah, of course, our mercenary Variana here, we're pairing her with. She gives us more attack speed. She gives us a little bit more healing, which I think is pretty good. Now, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and we'll check you next time.